refused help. Every city has someone it forgets. In the middle of a busy New York street, surrounded by noise, movement, and ambition, a man named Michael Turner sat quietly against a cold brick wall. People rushed past him every day. Business professionals checking their phones, students laughing with friends, tourists staring at tall buildings. Few noticed him. Even fewer stopped. Michael wasn't aggressive. I didn't shout for attention. He didn't stretch out his hand. Next to him sat a small cardboard sign that read, "No need to give, just smile." But what made Michael different wasn't that he was homeless. It was that he refused help. Over the years, many people had tried. A restaurant owner once offered him a job washing dishes in the evenings. A church volunteer offered him a place in a transitional housing program. A social worker visited him regularly, offering support to help him get back on his feet. Each time, Michael politely shook his head and said the same word: "No." To the outside world, he looked stubborn, lazy, maybe even ungrateful. But no one knew his past. 10 years earlier, Michael had been a respected high school principal in a small town in Ohio. He believed deeply in education. He believed in discipline, growth, and most importantly, second chances. Students admired him, teachers trusted him, parents respected him. Until one mistake changed everything. During a major school renovation project, financial paperwork was mishandled. The numbers didn't add up. Though Michael had trusted the wrong administrator and had no criminal intention, the responsibility fell on him. Local newspapers ran headlines questioning his leadership. The school board asked for his resignation. And overnight, the man who once stood confidently in front of hundreds of students felt smaller than ever before. It wasn't just the job he lost, it was his identity. Shame can be heavier than poverty. His confidence shattered. His marriage suffered under the weight of public embarrassment. Conversations became quiet. Distance grew. Eventually, his wife left. Michael didn't fight it. He believed he deserved it. Instead of rebuilding, he withdrew. Instead of trying again, he disappeared. He moved to New York, thinking a new city would mean a new beginning. But pain travels with you when it lives inside your mind. He applied for a few jobs at first, but every interview forced him to explain his past. Every explanation reopened the wound. Eventually, rejection felt safer than risk. So he stopped trying. The streets became easier. On the streets, no one expected greatness from you. And if no one expects anything, you cannot disappoint them. That belief slowly became his prison. He convinced himself that refusing help was accountability, that staying down was responsibility, that suffering was justice. Until one winter evening changed everything. Snow fell heavily that night. The wind was sharp and unforgiving. Michael pulled his coat tighter as people hurried into the subway station. A little boy walking beside his father stopped in front of him. The boy stared for a moment, then looked up at his dad and asked, "Why is he sitting here?" The father replied quietly, "Sometimes people make bad choices." Michael felt the words sink into him like ice. Then the boy looked directly at him and asked something simple. "Are you going to make better ones?" The world seemed to pause. Michael couldn't speak. The question was innocent, not judgmental, not cruel, just honest. That night, lying awake under a storefront awning, he replayed those words again and again. "Are you going to make better ones?" He realized something he had avoided for years. Yes, he had made a mistake. But staying on the street was no longer about that mistake. It was a new choice, and he was making it every single day, For the first time, he saw the truth clearly. The world had not sentenced him to this life. He had sentenced himself. The next week, when the social worker approached him again, she expected the usual refusal. Instead, Michael looked at her and said something different. "Can you tell me more about the program?" It was a small sentence, but it was the first step toward freedom. The process wasn't easy. It required paperwork, interviews, humility. He had to confront his past instead of hiding from it. He faced rejection again. He felt fear again. But this time, he didn't interpret setbacks as proof that he was worthless. He saw them as part of rebuilding. Months later, Michael secured a position at a community learning center. The pay was modest. The building was old. The students were struggling with their own challenges. But when he stood in front of that classroom for the first time, something inside him awakened. He wasn't there as a perfect man. He was there as a man who had fallen and stood back up. And that made his lessons more powerful than ever. He told his students openly, "One mistake does not define your future unless you let it." They listened. Because he wasn't speaking theory, he was speaking truth. Years passed. The corner where Michael once sat grew quieter in his memory. The brick wall remained, but he no longer leaned against it. Instead, he walked past it on his way to work. Not with pride, but with gratitude. He finally understood something profound. His greatest failure wasn't losing his job. It wasn't the public embarrassment. It wasn't even losing his marriage. His greatest failure was believing he didn't deserve another chance. The moment he changed that belief, his life slowly began to change too. And maybe that's the lesson for all of us. Sometimes we refuse help, not because it isn't available, but because accepting it would require us to forgive ourselves. And forgiving ourselves can be the hardest step of all. But it is also the beginning of transformation. Because you are not your worst moment, you are the choices you make after it. And one small decision can change everything.